70% of employees globally are not content or happy with their roles.
Goodness me.
So that's huge, right? So that's 7 out of 10 don't actually want to be doing what they're doing. We're now having to work longer. But those individuals that are sort of, I don't know, between 30 and 50, that suddenly go, oh my God, I am actually going to have to work until I'm 75.
Yeah.
Before I can actually technically retire or stop work. And so then it's, well, I don't want to be doing this for another 30 years.
Have you come across a client who really feels the pressure to return? You have this fear of missing out. So suppose like you've been away from the country like for 2 or 3 years, you want to go back and you're happy to now go back to your career. As you said, there's a gap, right? I mean, a huge amount of nervousness of approaching your colleagues back in the professional circle. Are there people who kind of come to you for that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big part of the returning to business as usual. How to really communicate your break, both on your resume, when you're interviewing, when you're talking to different networks, how to really draw the best out of that break and be able to articulate that is a massive strength. So that I work with individuals on that. I think with regards to those wanting to come back quicker, absolutely. There are so many examples of people who, whether it be from a financial perspective, whether it be from a perspective where they don't want to be out of their career or their industry for a period, for a long period of time. And I think that always comes in the upfront coaching piece when we're really looking at them shaping their experience, and it comes down to the why. It comes down to why they want to be taking the break in the first place, as to then where they spend it, who they spend it with, how long they take off, what they do on their break, and all of that then creates the break experience. There's a lot that do want to come back early, and I think for me it's around working on their mindset about what they would be compromising or losing if they did come back early, and what the cost is. And it's also when we talk about taking a break or not taking a break, there's a lot of people that really want to do it but just find there's too much fear involved. There's fear of taking the leap. And again, that's what we work through, is where those feelings of fear come from, what the cost is of not taking the break versus taking the break, and what that whole sort of future you. I try to work on a no regrets policy with individuals. So, let's fast forward. Visualize yourself sat on a beach talking to yourself in 10 years. What are you not going to regret? And really then working back from that.
Okay. And then that helps everybody. That works for everybody the same way, or I think it's again the individual way of somebody taking that coaching. Somebody is really quicker to adapt and
yeah, absolutely. Everybody's individual. There is not one person that I work with that is the same, or takes the same amount of time to get there, to get to their outcome or objective that they're looking for. A lot of individuals that I work with, it's really interesting, come with a preconceived idea. So they will come and they will say, I'm going to take a sabbatical and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to travel. I'm going to challenge myself with X, Y, and Z. I'm going to spend it here, here, and here. And actually, when we unpeel the layers of why they need to take the sabbatical or why they want to take the sabbatical, or what the consequences are of, filling their space and their time like this, actually they end up through the coaching process totally redefining their experience and redesigning their experience, because actually what their preconceived idea of what they were going to do, it doesn't satisfy the why. It doesn't, they could be totally burnt out, and travel is the last thing that they need to do. They need to take some time to just, rest, recover, go slowly, not challenge themselves. I work with a lot of A-type personalities that are constantly about, challenging themselves and being better and doing more. And actually the sabbatical is when they need to just learn to actually slow down.
It's funny, right? Because when you are going through a situation of burnout, people say travel, taking off, go on vacation, travel. And I'm not too sure really how it helps. You said like it doesn't. I mean, people think that be on the beach, holiday on the beach will just fix everything. But I feel like when you're on the beach, you really feel like I'm missing out. I need to catch up. I'm missing out, not at work. And when they go back to work, back to zero. I'm not too sure. Do you have a number of how many individuals more and more are going through burnout and are wishing for sabbatical? Do you have any number, any data?
So over 60% in Australia feel burnt out daily. And I was actually at a conference the last 2 days, a wellbeing at work conference that was all around, obviously, wellbeing within the workplace. And 70% of employees globally are not content or happy with their roles.
Goodness me.
So that's huge, right? So that's 7 out of 10 don't actually want to be doing what they're doing. We're now having to work longer. And I think there's a realization, certainly for those individuals, starting on their career, but those individuals that are sort of, I don't know, between 30 and 50, that suddenly go, oh my God, I am actually going to have to work until I'm 75. Before I can actually technically retire or stop work. And so then it's, well, I don't want to be doing this for another 30 years. So it's about then sort of taking a step back and thinking, well, if I don't want to be doing this for 30 years, what do I want to be doing? So I think there's a couple of things that have happened. One is COVID, and then one is this realization that we're having to work for longer. We're going to have to redefine what retirement looks like and, how we go about doing that. And therefore people are sort of hitting this crossroads going, right, okay, well, I fell into that. I can't see myself doing that for another 20, 30 years. So what do I do?
Do you have a number for sabbatical, the rise in sabbaticals in Australia?
Not Australia, but in globally, it's before COVID to currently, it's gone up 4 times. So it's huge. The rise of sabbaticals and career break is huge.
So which is good because people are really then prioritizing their well-being, which is good.
Yeah.
But there's also a return from sabbatical.
And companies are also supporting it. So, we're seeing more and more companies using a sabbatical policy as a recruitment tool to attract talent and also a retention tool. So a tool to actually retain talent. It might be stay with us for 5 years and then you are eligible for our sabbatical policy and you get X amount of time off. And so then every 5 years that happens. So it actually retains talent.
This is really interesting, right? Because I think there's a lack of resource. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a lack of resource of what to do when you're in sabbatical. The return, once you're back from sabbatical, what to do, how to get back to professional life. And I think people just take it like, okay, I'm going to take the sabbatical. Whatever I do, that's a different story. But return, I think the way less importance is given to that factor. And once you're back, then you do feel probably more burnout, I think, because during sabbatical, you have a pace. Getting back to work is a different pace. And I feel like there can be that people are just not aware that there is a support like what you do, your coaching. And I think I'm sure like you must be very happy with your job, what you do. Satisfied.
Yeah.
Besides helping others, it's also for yourself quite a satisfying job to pass on and help others. At the same time, that defines yourself, redefines yourself after every couple of months. So I think it's a nice job that you do.
I love it. And I think that one of the problems I was trying to solve for was exactly that. I had seen so many people when I was a people leader in the company I worked for so many people take career breaks and sabbaticals and then come back, and within a week or 2 weeks, it's a distant memory. They've fallen back into the same habits. They've fallen back into the same routine. They're back in the same position that they were, 6 months ago before they took their sabbatical. And for me, that is where the magic happens, is the integration. If you can integrate all of what you have experienced and learned and actually come back as a different version of yourself, that's where the magic happens. So that was one of the key problems that I saw that I wanted to solve, which is why I place as much importance and time on the integration piece as the planning and the actual, accountability partner piece when they're on sabbatical.
So that's a great insight that you are giving right now. There is a key of balancing personal aspirations and your professional ambitions. What is that key of balancing these two? From your own personal experience, what is it that you think that you have striked that balance?
I think it's redefining what balance means to you. Prior to us living the life that we live now, I think I thought about balance on a day-to-day basis. So it was very much, we talk about work-life balance. We then started to talk about work-life integration. It was about balance on a day-to-day basis. As I mentioned at the beginning, we came up with this, version of life that we wanted to live. It was actually crafted around 365 days, so around a year. And that's how I now look at balance. So I look at balance and say, this year, have I spent as much time as I wanted to with my family, my friends? I think about my work. Have I spent the right, for me, amount of time on my work? Have I spent what I wanted to spend time-wise on renovating the house? Are we achieving the renovation goals on the house? So for me, it's about redefining what balance means to the individual. I have a few things that work for me with regards to achieving that and making sure I hold myself accountable to it. The first one very much is vision boarding. So at the beginning, I do it January to January. Some people use their birthday as a marker. Some people do it, it depends what works for you, but I love vision boarding. So I vision board every single year. I start to think about it now, and then I have mine created for January. And it really is around all components of life and what I want life to look like, what I want to achieve that year, how I want to spend my time, how I want to feel. I have a word of the year that I kind of try and embody. So that's my vision board, and I have it on my phone. And I have it on my laptop as a screensaver. So every day I'm reminded of it and I can see it. I am a stickler for monthly planning. So that's my corporate life playing into personal life. And with that, I don't know whether you've come across the wheel of life, and I very much use that on a monthly basis. So I think about my month in terms of I think it's 10 different components or sort of categories. So things like friends and family, personal growth, finance, fun, health, spirituality. So I have 10 sort of sections that I think about, and I want to be able to fill those sections in the month. So
is that a calendar? Is that a planner or is that a calendar?
No, it's just notes. It's just in my notes. So I just have those 10 things I think about, and I think about how am I going to make sure that each of those cup is full that month. Obviously, some months, some will not be as full as others, but then I'm very aware of that the next month. If I haven't because of life or whatever prioritized, I don't know, friends and family that month, it'll be the month after. And then it's very much reviewing that and just keeping myself accountable, all the way through the year, and then looking back and being able to say, did the year satisfy the themes that we want to live life by and our values? And do I feel as though it was a balanced year in terms of what my version of balance looks like? Very much try and lace taking time out in through my month. So I really strive for what I call one joy day a month, which is a day where I do nothing to do with business or work or anything, and I literally just do what brings me joy. And one month that might be spending the day on my own. I just mooch around shops, and I might go to a spa. Or one month it might be that I'm back in the UK and I spend it with all my family and my nieces, and we have a great day on the beach. But I've got no technology, I'm not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about anything else, just a joy day. So I try and lace joy days through.
That's a nice word to. I know about cheat day, when people talk about eating on a day, whatever you want. But this is also quite like that. Oh, no, not like that. Not a cheat. It's a positive one. Joy day coming from Rebecca. That's a nice one. Do you really write it on your planner that, okay, this is my joy day?
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay, nice.
Very much so. Yeah. Blocked out. Nobody can interrupt my joy day.
Nice. For me, visualization helps. So I'm not into planning with planners. I love to buy the planners, and they're just there. I don't know what is it that I don't sit on it and write, because I feel that I'm wasting a lot of time. I'm kind of, maybe you need to coach me on that category. Maybe that will be off the podcast.
I think it's what works for the individual, isn't it? Some people really don't, and even what works for the individual in these specific areas, because vision boarding, I've had a client who the yearly vision boarding just did not work for, but a monthly vision board she loves. So she now almost monthly plans, but with a vision board. So she has 4 quadrants. She has all of her things in there that she's going to do for the month, and then she reviews it the next month. But a yearly just didn't work for her. So I think it's finding what works for you. I'm a real, I write lists, and I'm a planner, and I love planners, but others don't, and it doesn't work for them. So it's about finding what works for you, I think.
Yeah, for me, the visualization works, like just visualizing myself, like over a period of time. Let's say fast forward 2 years from now, where am I? I'm seeing myself, feeling that emotion. I'm feeling that space, and I want that. Not to kind of be there. What do I do? Then I kind of start working, and I do consciously understand that there will be times that things will not happen as I am planning or intending to. The only idea is to kind of move around quicker. If you're just stuck there, then that will slow down the pace of reaching where you want to. So for me, that works. But yeah, I think planners are something I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a try. I'm coming to the last question. How do you measure your success now, with the kind of work that you do? How do you measure your success? I think being around family, I understand, is very important. Striking a balance between personal and professional life is very important. But is that success for you, or is it different for you?
For me, how I measure what I do is energy levels. So I really only want to be doing what I feel gives me energy and energizes me. I would like to leave everything else that drains your energy or anything like that behind. So for me, it's how energized and how excited and what fills my cup. That's how I measure success for me. So do I wake up every morning and really look forward to the day, doing podcasts like this, coaching amazing people, hearing different stories, recording a podcast of my own. So I've got a Sabbatical stories podcast. So recording that, like, for me, that's the measure of how quickly do I jump out of bed and I'm so excited for the day. With regards to how I measure the success of who I work with, I think that comes down to the individual. What I can't help but absolutely love is when I get emails or text messages or messages on Instagram thanking me for the journey that they're having and all of the amazing things that people say. Like that, I had an email recently that I burst into tears because the feedback was just so wonderful and so lovely. And it's about, my hope is that I support individuals to really make their future self proud and that they can live a really happy and joyful life with no regrets.
It's a beautiful one. I mean, that kind of impact to have on others, I think that is success, isn't it? at the end of the day, to hear something like that, okay, you have helped somebody discover themselves, and that is for life or maybe for a longer period. And part of it, you were responsible for it. I mean, what more can you ask for from your job? Well, I'm really glad that we did this podcast, because I think there will be a lot of people with similar, who are in the similar path, or probably questioning themselves, can I take this path? Is there something? Are there anybody who has done it? Are there any success stories? And I think from this, I'm sure they'll get the insights. There are a lot of learnings, I'm sure, in the podcast, what we did today. And also your podcast, Sabbatical Stories. So I'm sure people who are looking for any sabbatical stories, go check out Rebecca Thomas' Sabbatical Stories podcast, which is on Apple, Spotify, and Apple. All right, Rebecca, I'm glad we did this.
No, I think it was a wonderful discussion. Thank you ever so much for your time. And I hope it helps your audience and your listeners, of whom a lot are on sabbaticals, maybe that haven't been chosen. But I think the last point is to really try and make the most out of every opportunity. And by doing such, you will make your future self proud.
One thing I realized that, like, not many want to accept the word sabbatical when they are as expat spouses and they move on. They just don't accept that they come into the category of sabbatical. They can look at it.
Career break or sabbatical,
yeah. They just look at it, okay, I'm just an expat spouse, but do not want to be labeled. I'm not saying that being labeled is going to help, but then there is a different perspective that they need to look at when they are in that situation. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.